Welcome to the Eat Better, Move Better, Live Better podcast presented by Flourish with Tracy, where we'll dive into the realms of holistic wellness, plant-based nutrition, yoga, and self-care to help you live your best life. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our special segments. Meditation Monday, start your week with mindfulness. Wellness Wednesdays, get the midweek boost you need. Sadhana Saturdays, dedicate weekends to personal growth. Join us as we explore and discuss all things to eat better, move better, and live better. Welcome. Today we're going to begin the first practice of our Understanding the Yamas and the Yamas series. We'll begin with the Yamas, which is how we operate in the external world, the world outside of us. And so the first Yama is Ahimsa. It is the practice of non-violence. And when we think of not harming or non-violence, it's not just about avoiding physical harm. It asks a more profound question. Does my present create more suffering or peace? It's about how we speak, think, react, consume, judge, how we energetically are moving through the world. It's critical that we walk nonviolently, that we embrace it, because without nonviolence, truth can be cruel, discipline can be punishment, our spirituality become an ego, our relationships can become control. We begin with Ahimsa, because it is the core to all of the other Yamas and the Niyamas. It's not about being perfect, it's just about being aware. Aware of where does violence live subtly within us, and how do we begin to soften it? Ahimsa is a Sanskrit word that breaks into which means without, and himsa, which means harm or violence. So the word Ahimsa translates to without violence. It is the first Yama because it establishes the energetic foundation for conscious living. Traditionally, violence is understood as something that is physical. But we expand this understanding through the practice of Ahimsa, because violence can also occur through words, thoughts, emotional manipulation, neglect, judgment, harshness, gossip, self-hatred, indifference. Sometimes violence is loud and sometimes it's soft and subtle. And it can appear through aggressive self-talk, even perfectionism, burnout, impatience, criticism. Violence does not begin externally, it begins internally. It's a war that can create conflict outwardly. It's a decision and a choice. It's not passive. Ahimsa is an active practice of awareness and asking you, is this thought harmful? Is this reaction necessary? Does this action create suffering? Am I acting from fear or consciousness? Nonviolence is not weakness. It requires an immense strength to respond consciously instead of reacting with emotion or impulsively. So what does violence beyond physical hurt mean? For example, many people assume that if I'm not physically harming someone, I may be practicing Ahimsa. Violence, as we mentioned, has many forms. Verbally, words can cause deep wounds. When we use sarcasm to humiliate or belittle, if we have a harsh criticism or yell, if we speak without caring or shame, if we're passive aggressive, words impact the subtle body and the nervous system. And many people still carry emotional wounds from things said years ago. When we practice Ahimsa, it asks us to be aware and conscious of how we speak, our tone, our intention, our timing, and the impact of the energy of the words that we speak. Before speaking, we can stop and pause first and ask, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it compassionate? And if we can't answer yes to those words, then perhaps we need not say. That is the practice of Ahimsa. Mental violence is incredibly common, yet we don't necessarily identify it. It's cruel self-talk, fantasies of revenge, hatred, bitterness, resentment, obsessive judgment. Many people sometimes internally speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another human being. I'm a failure. Oh, I'm never enough. This is stupid. Realize that your mind and your words mentally also affect your body. When you practice Ahimsa, you ask yourself, what kind of environment am I creating within myself? And then there's energetic harm. And that can infect without words, where we are projecting an unresolved pain onto others. We use silence as manipulation. We intimidate or have a controlling behavior. We're always negative. Have you ever entered a room and felt immediate tension? That energy around that tension communicates. So the practice of Ahimsa or non-harming also includes being responsible energetically. And then there's harm spiritually. When you use spirituality to cause shame, to control others, to invalidate pain, or to create some form of superiority. And examples could be, you should be more evolved. You manifested this suffering. Just stay positive. True spirituality is not dismissive. It is compassionate. So the first place to start is toward yourself before you can even begin to think about how you are non-harmful in the world. Harm can sometimes show up as normal in our modern culture, and this includes sleep deprivation, ignoring our emotional needs, punishing exercise, overworking, negative self-talk, people-pleasing, staying in a harmful environment, abandoning your personal boundaries, and toxic perfectionism. Sometimes we become so accustomed to this harshness that we mistake it for discipline. There is a difference between discipline and punishment. A spiritual discipline, which is called a tapas, creates growth. If there is a harm or punishment, that will not be a discipline. It will create a punishment. So having Ahimsa towards ourselves means to learn how to rest without guilt, to reinforce and hold our boundaries without shame, to be honest without being cruel, and to grow without self-hatred. It asks you to consider how can you correct yourself compassionately. Perfectionism often appears to be socially rewarded. Internally, it can become brutal and harmful. Perfectionism says, I'm only worthy if I perform. Mistakes make me unacceptable. Rest equals laziness. This is a chronic stress to your nervous system. When you practice Ahimsa, you interrupt perfectionism. You allow softness, self-forgiveness, humanity, learning. Another way is to listen to your body instead of ignoring it. Your body speaks constantly. If you repeatedly ignore when you're tired or stressed or have grief or imbalance or pain, you are creating a disconnection from yourself. Ahimsa includes listening to your body, not as an obstacle, but as a communication. And then, only then, when you have ensured that you are being supportive of yourself, then you can look at Ahimsa externally. Relationships reveal where it thrives and where you need to cultivate. Ahimsa in a relationship, any relationship, personal, professional, social, means that you respect communication, you're accountable emotionally, there are healthy boundaries, there is compassion, listening, and patience. And it means no tolerance for abuse. And this is important because many misunderstand non-harming or non-violence as never confronting, never disagreeing, never protecting, or endlessly enduring something that's harmful. But allowing ongoing harm is not Ahimsa. Sometimes the most non-violent action is creating boundaries, speaking truth clearly, leaving a harmful situation, and protecting your own well-being. Ahimsa is not passive submission. It's conscious action rooted in wisdom rather than aggression, rooted in response instead of reaction. Because when we react, we're doing so from a trigger of fear, ego, pain, defensiveness, or something that's unresolved. When you practice Ahimsa, you invite pause, an opportunity to breathe and observe, to witness the emotional surge, and to respond with intention. A pause can even prevent suffering. Ahimsa includes compassion, a healthy compassion, compassion that says, I care for others while honoring also myself. And this balance is important. It helps navigate aggression that shows up in modern cultures through outrage cycles and online hostility, comparison culture, overstimulation. Many people live day to day in a really subtle, continuous fight or flight situation. Ahimsa helps you step away from those situations. And what does that look like in the modern world? Reducing harmful exposure to media, toxic communication, especially online, slowing down reactive behavior, being mindful with your overall consumption, and knowing when to disengage and walk away from unnecessary conflict. Ahimsa asks, what am I feeding my mind today? Harm is not only what we do, it's also what we continually consume. So what is harmful that you need to let go? The more your nervous system is dysregulated, the more reactive your behavior will be. And it could show up as aggression, impatience, defensiveness, irritability. And that's why Ahimsa helps to support regulating. And this is all through grounding, breath work, mindful movement, checking in with yourself so that non-harm or non-violence becomes something more accessible when your body feels safe. Helps you tap into your personal compassion. So you can always self-check in without judgment, bringing your awareness inward and ask yourself, where does harshness appear in my life? Do I speak with harm, intentionally or unintentionally? Do I react or respond before I listen? Do I overextend beyond my capacity? Do I ignore what my body is communicating to me? Do my words create harm or healing? And as you ponder the answers to these questions, ask, what would compassion look like in these situations? Not avoidance or denial, just conscious, intentional compassion. Because at any given time, each of us is doing the very best that we can at that particular moment. We all deserve compassion. And we all deserve to give it as well. So imagine all of the places within yourself that has lived in survival mode and all the places external to yourself that could use some softness, some understanding, some ahimsa. So imagine all of the spaces you just relived or thought of, receiving a soft response rather than your reaction, receiving your compassion. Ahimsa becomes real through practice. When you speak respectfully during a disagreement, you rest when you're exhausted. You nourish your body consciously and set healthy boundaries. Ahimsa becomes real. It is practical. When you practice patience in traffic or stress, when you listen fully without interrupting, when you consume media mindfully and apologize authentically when harm occurs, you're practicing ahimsa. When you offer compassion without enabling dysfunction, you are practicing ahimsa. Ahimsa is not perfection. We'll all still make mistakes. The practice is being aware and returning. Violence is not always physical. Harm can exist through habits and reactions, expectations, environments, and thoughts. The Yama of Ahimsa asks us to be aware and conscious, to create a space of peace, compassion, and understanding, and to do so with intention. And the more of this awareness we cultivate, the more unconscious harm we will let go, the more compassion we'll embrace. Ahimsa, non-harming, non-violence begins in our mind, lives in our nervous system, is manifested in our speech, our sense of self-worth, and in our presence. Every moment becomes an opportunity to ask, what energy am I contributing internally and externally to the world around me. So silently repeat to yourself, I practice Ahimsa. I choose awareness over reaction. I choose compassion over cruelty. I choose presence over aggression. I practice Ahimsa. May my thoughts become more gentle. May my words become more wise. May my actions create less suffering. And may non-harmful, non-violence all begin with me. Thank you for sharing this practice today. May Ahimsa continue to reveal itself not only in moments of peace, but also in moments of challenge. True practice is not tested when life is easy. It's revealed when we respond during discomfort. With gentleness, with awareness, with compassion. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's insights help you on a personal journey towards a healthier, happier life. Don't forget to join every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern for more self-care and holistic wellness tips. Before you go, make sure to comment, click the bell, like, and subscribe buttons for upcoming episode notifications. Be sure to always consult a medical professional before making any major changes regarding your health, diet, or routine. In the meanwhile, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, every step you take is one step closer to a better you. Until next time, keep flourishing, and as always, may all be well.